I would like to introduce our next guest, Dr. Erez Dayan.
Hi.
All right,
Thank
it's
you
my
for having
pleasure.
me.
Thank you. And we're going to be speaking on holistic approaches to aesthetic treatments. Dr. Dayan, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. This is the first time I've had the opportunity to speak with you on a panel or any of my sessions.
Thank you.
Introduce how we bring in holistic approaches, because years ago, nobody ever wanted to really listen to holistic. It was always on the eastern parts of the world that holistic approaches. And now today, integrative, regenerative medicine is so popular.
Right.
How do you introduce holistic approaches into traditional medicine today?
Well, I think it's a great question. And, holistic really means looking at the person as a whole. And I think we're going through a trend in aesthetic medicine and aesthetic surgery where, let's say in the 90s, early 2000s, people were injecting, much more, we're talking about hyaluronic acid, silicone implants were popular. And now we're going through a phase where, and this is not just the aesthetic industry, this is how we eat, exercise, people are much more aware of organic foods, what materials they're wearing. So I think all those things play into what the public desires. For example, if you look at fillers, there are new products that are not so much synthetic. They're allograft cadaveric fat, like MTF makes a product called Renuva, which has become very popular. And those are the kind of patients that don't desire the synthetic fillers. So I think having those kind of products available and being aware, PRP is a great example. People want to look natural.
Dr. Berman just
he was talking about that, right? So yeah, I think PRP is a great example of people often prefer when you're volumizing to use their own fat, to use their own PRP, and I think those things are very important for us to meet the patient halfway and really be aware of what they're looking for.
So when you first meet a patient and they come into you, they're coming in to see you with a specific goal in mind.
Right.
Whatever that is. Whether it's fillers or whether it's skin tightening or whether it's skin care.
Right.
When you meet that patient and that's first introduced to you naturally, hopefully your staff has already tried to get some of the tricks of the trade and bring what that patient's questions are to you. How do you determine holistically what is the best treatment for that when there's so many out there today?
So it's a great question, and I'm giving a presentation tomorrow on this exact topic. And I think for me, being a plastic surgeon, you have to have a very good sense of where your patient's coming from, what their goals are, what their budget is. All these things are important because if any of those things are not aligned, you simply won't make the patient reach their goal and they're not going to be a happy patient. So I think part of the problem with medicine in general is we're very segmentalized. The plastic surgeon is looking at what the plastic surgeon can do. Is it an excisional procedure? The dermatologist is more focused on skin care, resurfacing. The esthetician is looking at it from a different angle. I think a huge value, and something I'm very interested in, for example, I look a lot at energy-based technology, and looking at the patient as a whole, because it's like when you get your car taken care of. If they give you your car back and it's dirty. You don't feel like it drives well.
Right.
And it's the same thing with plastic surgery. We do a lot of skin resurfacing. And it's it's really an analogy. If you come out of a minimally invasive facial aesthetic procedure or a facelift, and you still have dark spots on your skin and you still have wrinkles, you may look better, but not as good as you could. And I think a lot of times we overlook the whole picture. The patient is not thinking about all the details and technical details. They just want to look better. And I think all the ways we can do that, and that comes down to experience. There are technologies that work, there are technologies that work less well, and it's our job to look into the science, look at the results, and figure out what is really effective.
So when a patient doesn't qualify for specific procedures, and holistically you're looking at them almost from a primary care physician's type of a role, even though you're a plastic surgeon.
Completely.
Right?
You have to be very honest with the patient. One thing I've learned, I'm a young plastic surgeon. As a young plastic surgeon, you're motivated, you want to help the patient, you have a whole armamentarium, and you just want to be on their team, you want to make them better. A great way to be on the wrong team is if you try to offer them something that doesn't work. And if you try to fit a square peg into a circular hole, it just won't work. And I think some of my patients that are the biggest advocates for me are the ones I never touched. Because I told them, I don't think I can achieve your goal. And I think that's part of the holistic view of a patient. This is taking care of people. and helping them reach their aesthetic goals.
But isn't there always something that we could do? If it's not surgery, some patients aren't candidates for surgery because they can't be put to sleep, or they just may not be that fit. They need a tummy tuck, and liposuction just won't do it.
Right.
But yet there are certain procedures that you may be able to offer. I've just interviewed several doctors that incorporate radio frequency. Some are doing lasers, some are doing PRP, stem cell, traditional plastic surgery.
I totally agree with you. There's always something, luckily, the aesthetic market is growing, and particularly the non-invasive market. There's a concept called the treatment gap. And what that is basically is, if you think about patients, there's three groups of patients. You have the young patients, and those are patients you can do Botox for, fillers on, skincare. And then you have the older patients who really need more excisional operative removal of skin, lifting, soft tissue. Mm-hmm. That middle group of patients is growing. Patients in their 40s, 50s, they're not kind of quote unquote bad enough to require an excisional procedure, but you also can't satisfy their needs with the more minimally, the injectables and the Botox.
Correct.
And I agree with you. There's a big opportunity there to take new technology and apply it to that patient group. I think the key thing is making sure, and with social media, social media is a great tool.
Well, that's where I'm going to lead into.
Yeah,
so
you really want to make sure that their expectations, that they're not trying to get an excisional procedure result with a minimally invasive device. And I think figuring that out is critical. For me, imaging is very useful. Taking their picture, morphing it, and seeing where is their mind, what are they trying to achieve, and can I get there? And also social media. In my social media, I'm quite active on social media. I don't necessarily show the A+ result all the time, because once I do that, I will get a good response, but then a lot of people are expecting that. So I try to keep it very realistic.
Right. You talk about social media. I work with several physicians that are clients of mine that are all over the United States that are very, very heavy into social media, and they've got tens and thousands of followers. And they show all kinds of results.
Right.
As a young plastic surgeon, and I bring that up because you mentioned it, not me, right? As a young plastic surgeon, how do you differentiate yourself from those of the more experienced surgeons who are also very, very heavy into the social media as well? And I'll bring up, for example, because I believe one of the people that started the social media craze was Dr. Miami. He's based in South Florida.
Sure, I know him.
All right, everybody knows that's in the social media marketplace, but I'm not trying to promote one way or the other. How do you differentiate yourself when you're looking at it, because you come at it from a totally different perspective?
I think it's a very important question. I think social media is a tool. And it's a tool to demonstrate what you do, what your skill set is, who you are. I mean, for me, a lot of patients come and they know a lot about me already. And they've actually, frankly, I feel like they've already signed up, because they come in, they've seen my results, they've seen what I do, and they trust me. Now the question is, who am I versus someone who's been in practice for 20 years? And it's a great question. And I think honesty is everything. I just like I said now, I'm a young plastic surgeon, but being a young plastic surgeon comes with some benefits, meaning I'm most up to date on a lot of the latest technology. I've done a lot of the research on a lot of those devices. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's a value in that, and there's a lot of value in experience. If you have 30 years of experience, that's a tremendous value.
Well, I want the most experienced pilot.
Right.
All right, when I'm on an airplane.
Exactly.
I don't mind, a young plastic surgeon in medicine, but I want the most experienced guy on the airplane.
Yeah, and I think that's totally valid. I think for me, personally, I think everybody's an individual, and I trained at some of the best. I trained at Harvard. I did a lot of the studies. So I think that those things are, just to showcase who you are. I have 3 kids, so I think all those things I showcase on my social media.
Perfect.
And tell them about me.
Right. Dr. Dayan, it is a pleasure.
Much.
Thank you so much for taking time
My
out
pleasure.
of your busy schedule to speak with us.
Thank you.
Okay.